This episode is brought to you by Clear Peak Fertility. Clear Peak Fertility and Wellness is the Denver area's newest clinic for inclusive fertility care. That means they support every person's path to parenthood. From fertility consultations, diagnostic workups, women's wellness exams, weight loss support, and treatments like IUI, including donor sperm, they focus on the whole person. Discover expert, compassionate care at clearpeakfertility.com and schedule your consult today. Oh, and if you get in touch this February, Clear Peak is offering a $50 discount on new consults to our listeners. Just let them know you heard about them on CityCast Denver. That's clearpeakfertility.com. This episode is brought to you by the Denver Art Museum. Kick off 2025 with an unforgettable night at the Denver Art Museum's first Untitled Artist Takeover event of the year. It's happening on Friday, January 31st from 6 to 10 p.m. Experience a vibrant night of art, performances, hands-on art making, a pop-up bar, and unique experiences led by local artists Sarah Darlene and King B, plus a whole host of contributing creatives. Untitled Artist Takeover is included in general admission and free for Denver Art Museum members. Reserve your tickets today at denverartmuseum.org. That's denverartmuseum.org. Today on CityCast Denver. Are we on the verge of another King super strike? Thousands of workers are set to vote this week on a contract that could determine how your next grocery trip feels. Me and producer Paul Caroli dig into the details. Plus, could rents really be dropping substantially in the Denver metro? And a listener asks us to define a word we use all the time. Today is Tuesday, January 28th. I'm Bree Davies, and here's what Denver's talking about. Hey, Paul.
Hey, good morning, Bree.
There's a lot of news that happened over the weekend, I feel like.
Yeah, I mean, it's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday. There's a lot of news that's happened in the last few days. And I think we just want to mention this one story before we get into the other stories, because we're going to dig into this later this week. What was the big headline?
The big headline, Bree, is there's a new party drug out called pink cocaine.
You and I were deep in Wikipedia trying to figure this out.
That's my thing, at least. I mean, that's a small piece of this, bigger thing that we've been watching for months and months. Like there was, the actual news you're talking about is there was this major raid in up way north on Federal, late Saturday night, early Sunday morning. The DEA and I think ICE sent a bunch of dudes to bust this party in a vacant warehouse where apparently some people who are linked to that Venezuelan gang, Tren de Aragua, have been hanging out for months, partying on the weekends and with, drugs, guns, all sorts of bad stuff. It's a gang. This is what people do. This is the criminal underworld of our city. But it's interesting, I think, because this was a bigger scale of raid than we've seen before. And was that linked to the Trump administration's new, more ambitious crackdown on immigration and these the gang situation that we've been worried about?
It's hard to we don't know. I think the fair thing to say is we don't know, but, looking at other situations that are happening across the country and the fact that ICE was involved here in this makes me think a little bit like that could be the case, but...
Seems like it. At least it got picked up that way. This is in the New York Post over the weekend. This is on Fox News over the weekend. All these conservatives are they've been itching and ready for these stories.
For this kind of story.
Oh, Aurora was taken over and now President Trump is back to take it back.
That's kind of why I'm a little skeptical of the situation. Too. That and the official Twitter account of the Rocky Mountain Drug Enforcement Administration posted about this. Well, not surprisingly, they used the term nearly 50 illegal aliens were taken into custody. Yeah. This is a federal office uses those terms.
Is that how they might use those. Those might be their official, who knows?
It's what they say on their Twitter account.
This is Trump's America again.
Well, we're going to get into that story later this week. We're going to break it down. With
a reporter who actually knows what's happening, who's going to tell us actually what's going on in our city, what's real, what's not.
So stay tuned for that. Mm-hmm. Before we get into the rest of the news, we have a voicemail about our upcoming event in March, our Heyday event. Let's hear it.
Hi, CityCast Denver. It's Boris B. from Theater Artibus. And I'm doing a funny and interactive act about the hiking in Colorado. Coming up on Saturday, March 8th, I'll be on the grandstand stage at Heyday doing my funny and interactive performance. Heyday is an indoor fair with urban flair, like a classic country fair but with a Denver twist. A friendly time for families. Well, I hope to see you there. Get your tickets to see me and other local artists on Heyday Grandstand Stage by visiting heydaydenver.com. That's heydaydenver.com. See you there.
Thanks for calling in, Boris.
Thanks, Boris.
I've heard a little bit about what he's planning, and I
you
think,
have?
I think people are going to like it. Yeah.
A lot of really cool artists I know in the community have done stuff with Theater Artibus, so I'm super excited.
Same. And he alluded to like the hiking and the mountain culture that he's going to be, I think, satirizing. But yeah, it's going to be a good one.
I want to see that.
Yeah.
I want to see that.
I think you'll like it.
Well, okay, let's get to the news.
Wait.
Oh.
Heydaydenver.com. That's where you get your tickets. $15.
Just $15. Get them now. All right, let's talk about the King Super strike. So this conversation has been looming in recent weeks around a potential strike, but this isn't the first time that this has happened since we started this show, Paul, like back in 2022. What happened then?
Yeah, this is crucial backstory because it sets up what might happen this week. Longtime listeners will remember we both got super into this back in January of 2022. More than 8,000 King Soopers workers all across the metro area went on strike for 10 days, and they ultimately went back to the negotiating table with the company, and they won raises. In some cases, for some employees, up to $6 more per hour, as well as some pension benefits, and the company agreed to pay a higher share of workers' healthcare costs. So a lot of people saw that as a huge success for the King Soopers workers, and it was like, that was a huge story.
It was huge. It was 2022, right?
Mm-hmm.
So we're coming out of the heights of the pandemic when frontline workers were grocery store workers. They went through a lot compared to some of us. We're work from home types, Paul. We didn't experience what they did. So there was an interesting atmosphere at that time. But we're kind of back in the same situation here in January 2024.
Because what they negotiated was a 3-year contract. 3 years from 2022 brings us to 2025. That's this month. Their contract just expired on January 17th.
That's great. That's just crazy that time has passed that. I can't wrap my head around it.
It's like the snap of a finger.
Yeah. So what are they talking about? Why is this strike looming? Like what are we looking at in terms of like what the union wants versus what the company is saying?
Well, what's been happening over the last few months is that the union that represents these workers, which is the UFCW Local 7, led by President Kim Cordova, who was recently reelected at the end of last year. They've been negotiating with the company, Kroger, the owner of King Soopers, since October on a new contract to follow up on this 3-year contract we've been talking about. And it seems like they've come to an impasse. What's happened from the union side is they say that staffing is their number one issue. That's according to a quote from Kim Cordova in the Denver Post last week. The union has made some analysis that employee hours in Colorado have dropped by 18%. So the average worker, or the average, amount of time that a worker has had per week is dropped 18%. That means, and then think about the pay that would come with that 18% drop in hours. That would be a significant reduction, I think, for a lot of people. So she also says that decrease and that, quote, inadequate staffing, according to her, has led to longer checkout lines.
Oh, for sure.
You've seen that.
Oh, I was there this weekend. Absolutely.
Interesting. I was there at my King Soopers this weekend. I saw no checkout lines. There was no people at any of the checkout lines except for the self-checkout ones, which I hate. And they always go wrong. I know. We've always felt differently about this. I cannot stand the self-checkout. Boy, I do not like it. I'm not good at it. I'm not good at scanning my own crap. I respect the skills that the people who work there have. They know
like
the systems.
I appreciate that.
But Cordova also says that some departments have been forced to close early because of not enough workers to stock shelves, ensure that prices get changed in the computer systems and in the stores. So that seems to be their main issue. Then on the company's side, Joe Kelly, who's the representative for King Soopers, I think he might be the president, he says that's 100% not true. We have close to 3,500 people more than we did during COVID.
Oh, really?
That's what he says.
Huh.
That's what he says, yeah.
So they're saying, union saying we're understaffed.
Yep.
And that's putting a lot of pressure on the people that are working. Kroger saying, that's not true. Plenty of staff.
Yeah. Well, they're saying, the union's saying our staff isn't getting enough hours.
Okay.
We're not getting the same hours, and it's making these jobs not as good for people. So they're trying to defend their people.
Interesting.
Now, the state of play for the negotiations is
Yeah.
interesting, too, because apparently, according to Joe Kelly, the company gave the union their, quote, last best offer in early December, and apparently the union hasn't responded yet. Now, it's very hard to understand these details. And like, I went back and I looked for the actual deal that they struck 3 years ago. The contract, I don't think it's public. Like, there's no way
You can't reference
which is,
the exact contract.
yeah. So, which is so interesting because like
That
both
is
sides are a little bit, it's in their interest to not be like totally transparent. I think. Although I would appreciate it if they were. But Joe Kelly says that they had an offer that included a 4-year contract with $180 million in increased wages, as well as health care, pension, and a number of things. That's a quote from the Denver Post, which is, more details would be appreciated.
Yeah.
Because we're all going to be making this choice soon. If they do go on strike, that's the whole point of this. A strike is about leverage, about creating public opinion and a war of public opinion. Of like, our shopper's going to stop going to King Soopers,
Right,
thereby giving workers more leverage to go back to the negotiating table and get a better deal.
Yeah. This is where the customer comes into it.
Yeah.
For sure.
So our feelings about King Soopers are crucial to what's about to happen.
And I have some feelings. What about, okay, so Paul, you mentioned that there were no checkers when you went into a King Soopers last. Have you been shopping at King Soopers in general?
Well, because of my, as longtime listeners know, because of my ongoing
'Cause you're a
luxury home
vagabond.
renovation / mold removal, I have not been going to my regular King Soopers, but I was there over the weekend and it's changed.
How?
Because we talked about the shoplifting epidemic that's been
Right.
happening and like all the grocery stores that are putting in new security measures.
Yes.
We have those now down in Virginia's Village, King Soopers off Monaco. They put all the laundry detergent behind lock and key.
Yeah. It's like the most uninviting thing. It makes me not want to shop there.
Yeah, it's not my favorite.
They're
Fortunately, the Golden Sriracha flavored Doritos are right there in the open.
not locked
Easy to grab.
down.
Yep, they're right there. You can just get them, pick them up, eat them, have a good time.
So I just want to share what my perception is of how the King Soup Kroger company views me as a customer.
Tell me.
Because I, first of all, have been a customer at King Soopers since I was born. It's where my parents shopped. I'm a loyal customer because of that.
Yeah.
I shopped at the one that they closed by your house and turned into a Vasa Fitness at Monaco and Evans.
Yeah, it's a legacy Colorado brand. I think a lot of people have personal relationships
Yeah.
with it. The pink cookies.
Oh my God, I was just talking about these the other day because now they give you bananas. And I'm like, I want a pink cookie. My son wants a pink cookie. I mean, I want a pink cookie. But so yeah, I've been a loyal shopper. I have to say part of that is the employees, always helpful, always nice. That was the one highlight of my entire trip. Yes, or this weekend to King Soopers was the employees are always wonderful when I can find one, to be fair. But the messaging that King Soopers or Kroger is sending me as a customer is that they do not want me in the store. For the reason you mentioned, increased security, checking my receipt for what, I don't really know, locking up things as cheap as I looked for a nail file. That was locked up. They have a camera in the beverage aisle, not the alcoholic beverage aisle, just like the grab and go,
Weird.
waters, Gatorades, whatever. There's a camera that comes on when you walk into that aisle. So there's that messaging too, that I don't want you to be here. Second, I get mailers all the time. Instacart, order from us. Pick it up, order, pick it up. Don't come in. You get 4 times the King Soopers fuel points if you don't come in the store. Like, please, it's basically like, please stop coming in the store. And
They want you to order online.
they want you to order online because they don't want you to come in the store and need an employee. And the other thing is, when you are shopping in the store, you're competing with the people filling the orders. So there's a person next to me filling 25 grocery orders, and I'm competing with them to get the best produce, get the things off the shelves before they disappear. It's literally like I'm shopping in a fulfillment center. And so I hazard to guess that they would deny that this is their point, but all the messaging that's coming to me as a customer is saying, get out of the store.
Yeah.
Stop coming to the store. We don't want to staff the store. We don't want to run this store. We want you to order from us the way that you do from Amazon.
Yeah, interesting. Well, I mean, they would probably make more money, right, if they didn't have to pay people as much.
Absolutely.
Cut down on staffing.
But like
That's what the union's for, protect the people.
then I'm going to Trader Joe's, man. Sorry. I'll do my 3 rounds like I talked to Attorney General Phil Weiser with. I'll hit Trader Joe's for some things, Sprouts for some things.
Yeah.
And then honestly, Costco, I get about 75% there with what I need from Costco, and then I can pick up a couple things that I don't need in bulk at somewhere else. And that's the message that King Soopers is sending to me. So,
Did you get eggs yesterday?
you should have seen the egg section, Paul.
Tell me about it.
There
I'm
was
curious.
like 20 of us waiting, and there was this sweet little granny standing in the front, taking her sweet time, feeling all the eggs, and we were all just waiting for the like last 10 packs of eggs that were there. And I grabbed one, and I was like, the gauntlet! I made it! I got my 12 eggs for my family.
How much do they cost?
Oh, I didn't even check.
I got eggs yesterday, and I picked them up, and then I was like, Megan, we can't actually buy these.
It's gold.
$8.49 for a dozen eggs.
My sister-in-law told me she paid $12 the other day.
Crazy.
It's
crazy.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So I think I'm so desperate to hear what people think
Me
about King
too.
Soopers, because I think after the failed Kroger-Albertsons merger that left such a bad taste in so many people's mouths, and then this whole egg situation and the security situation, I think that Kim Cordova is making a very canny move here by
Absolutely.
pushing for a strike, and that there's going to be a lot of public sentiment on their side.
I think so too, but we want to hear from you because you know
Yep.
what I'm curious about. Like, I have this brand loyalty, right? I know a lot of folks move here from other places, and I hear this a lot. Oh, we had this great chain where
Aldi's,
Publix,
Albertsons, whatever.
like, and so I wonder when you do move here, how do you make the choice of where to go? And are you a King Soopers person? And if you grew up here like me, are you still going to King Soopers, or are you a Safeway person? Give us a call on the Which Grocery Store hotline, 720-500-5418. Let us know. We want to know where you're shopping. And actually, we also want to know what you think. What is your behavior change if there's a strike?
Yes, because it
So
could be coming
curious.
soon. They're going to be voting this Wednesday and Thursday. King Soopers workers, they're going to vote in Pueblo and Colorado Springs. So, I mean, that would just be to authorize a strike, not to call a strike. So there's still a few steps here, but we're going to be watching this. We're going to be all over this story, just like we were last time, and we would need to know what you think. We actually need to know what you think.
I'm dying to know because I want to know. You and I, Paul, have very different shopping habits,
Yes.
but I'm curious what other people's experiences are.
This episode is brought to you by Hill's Pet Nutrition. Every shelter pet deserves a second chance, and you're making it possible for thousands of them every day. Because when you feed your pet Hill's, you help feed a shelter pet, which helps make them healthy, happy, and more adoptable, changing their life forever. So they can change yours. Over 15 million shelter pets fed and adopted. Science did that. Visit hillspet.com/podcast to learn more.
This episode is brought to you by LifeLock. The new year brings new health goals and wealth goals. Protecting your identity is an important step. LifeLock monitors millions of data points per second. If your identity is stolen, LifeLock's restoration specialist will fix it, guaranteed or your money back. Resolve to make identity health and wealth part of your New Year's goals with LifeLock. Save up to 40% your first year. Visit LifeLock.com/podcast. Terms apply.
Our next topic, Bree.
Yeah.
Rent.
Ugh.
But apparently, according to some new data from the Apartment Association of Metro Denver, there has been a, quote, historic drop in rents across the metro area. This is incredible news, right? I mean, this is people are in the streets
being
rejoicing.
reported on as if it is.
Are you seeing that? Tell me how you're receiving this.
So the Apartment Association of Metro Denver is touting this again, largest price drop in the region, quote, ever last quarter, ever, 1.5%, Paul. So that averages out for a average rent being $1,850 a month. That would mean you'd save about $70.
Yeah, it's really more about how small the drops were in the past and how consistent the growth has been the entire every other time in history.
Yeah, like what is 1.5% if we've gone up by 25% or something over the last 5 years?
Yeah, I think that was a friend of the show, Matt Frommer's comment.
What did he
Matt
say?
Frommer from Sweep, past guest, said, "While this is trending in the right direction, a 1.5% annual rent decrease is a drop in the bucket compared to the 29% rent increase from 2019 to 2024."
29%.
I mean, I think that's what most people are feeling, right? Like that's why we got so many frustrated comments from my interview with of Drew Hamrick of the Apartment Association of Metro Denver when he was trying to explain the dynamics here. I mean, people are just upset about how damn expensive rent is.
The reason I'm saying it's being reported on this way was the Denver Gazette said, quote, "The price drop is a welcome relief for renters who are struggling with Colorado's high cost of living." A welcome relief, said no one.
Yeah, I don't know anyone who's like, yes,
Me neither.
I'm feeling it, and it's
Thank
clearly
you.
a big difference now.
Like, it feels so small.
Yeah.
Just so small. The Gazette also said 20,000 new units came on the market last year, leading to higher vacancies.
Yeah.
So that could contribute to this.
I mean, that's why it's happening. Increased supply. We've seen a construction boom. We all have seen the cranes. Drew Hamrick explained this. We'll put a link to that interview in the show notes. But that's why it's happening. There's been a huge increase in rental units, and the demand has not caught up, and therefore the price has gone down a little bit.
Well, if we keep getting more apartments online, then maybe we'll get more decreases in rent. But I think
that's the problem. It's not happening. The permits have stopped.
Oh.
This is what the other thing Drew and I talked about. And he's actually, sorry to say this, people, but he's right about this. There is not as much construction in the pipeline as there was over the last 2 years. So these quote unquote historic drops are likely not to continue unless something changes for the developers and how they're picking what projects to build or where they can get investment to build new projects in Denver.
Well, interestingly, too, I think Denverite reported that 7% of metro area apartments were vacant last quarter, which translates to about 30,000 units. So that, again, is part of this maybe negotiating conversation. If there's more vacancies, maybe you have some room as a renter to say, hey, I could get a better deal somewhere else.
Yeah. I mean, that's the only advice I would have to give to people about this. I mean, I know how unrealistic it sounds like to negotiate on rent because, I mean, I've never known a single soul to do this successfully in my whole life.
Well, and you're usually not talking to the person that owns the building. You know, you're just talking to somebody who's there to sign get their leases signed. They're not in the they don't have the power.
Yeah.
I would say.
If you are lucky enough to talk to someone like that, the way to do it, it's not to talk about your story. It's not to talk about how much you need the apartment or anything like that. The way you actually convince these people to give you a lower rent is to show them the competition. You have to go and look in the neighborhood at comparable apartments that have similar amenities and say, I could get this same product for cheaper elsewhere. That's the only way to do it.
I was just talking to a friend last night about this who said he's paying $1,900 a month for a one-bedroom in Uptown. When he moved in 4-ish years ago, with the move-in special, it was about $1,400. So his rent has gone up $500 in the last 4 years, which is quite a bit because his wages have not increased.
That's crazy, yeah.
But he talked to a friend who said, but I just moved into this new apartment, like the Via on 8th and Lincoln, and I'm paying $1,200 a month for a one-bedroom. So he's going to do exactly what you just said is, okay, now I can go to my apartment and say, hey, I could get this place for $700 cheaper. How can you meet me here?
This is actually also the reason why that RealPage rent algorithm is so pernicious.
So put RealPage in the context of this conversation with these numbers, Paul.
Well, it takes away your power to negotiate because if you're going and looking for comps to make a better offer, to get a better offer on rent, and you can't find any, maybe it's because 45% of landlords use this rent algorithm software and allegedly colluding to set rents higher. So you can't find a comp to give you a lower
they're all
price
under this
to show
illusion
that
of
it's
the same price.
Yeah, there is no real competition there because they are all using this product. 45% of them, according to the White House analysis, are using this product. That's why it's a problem because that's how they're artificially inflating the rent.
That is so crazy.
Yeah, I mean, that's why I think it's a problem. There's also other things that company does that are just blatantly anti-competitive, like holding seminars where landlords can share notes and share data. It's it's crazy what they're doing.
Slimy.
They're definitely, I mean, Drew Hamrick knows this. All the lawmakers know this. It's an open secret, but the bill's going to pass this session. I think it's going to get banned. There's going to be some kind of regulation on this algorithm in Colorado.
Well, I think this is just adding to that argument because if rents really are dropping, then consumers should be able to see these changes in the market. And if they're not seeing the changes in the offerings that they have, they know that it's not in their favor.
Well, maybe. I mean, it's very complicated. There's a lot of different factors. Fair. But if the renters aren't seeing it, they're definitely going to be calling on their elected officials to be putting more pressure on some of these people who are seen as bad actors.
I'm thinking about, we got to have Julie Gonzalez back on to talk about this. I'm so curious what she thinks about
I would
the
like
rents
to hear
dropping.
her strategies for it. I heard from some of the lawmakers how it went last year. I was just very surprised by some of the arguments that were going on both sides. Because, like, I don't know. I mean, that's a subject for a different day.
Let's move on.
All right. Okay. It's the best part of the show. We always love hearing from you, our brilliant and hilarious listeners, about the things you care about. And every Tuesday, we share a comment or a question that's come through on the CityCast Denver hotline.
Yeah.
Or one of the many other places that we take your feedback. We love your feedback.
We do.
We've got an email. Okay, this one I want to hear what you have to say about this, because I saw this and I was like, I have thoughts.
Yeah.
So this person wrote, hey, CityCast, I was just doing the survey. We have a listener survey out right now.
Yes.
Check out the link in the show notes. Please fill it out for a chance at a Visa gift card.
$250.
I was just doing the survey and thinking about how the idea of, quote, what communities want keeps getting used. I would love a show where there is a deeper discussion on what this concept means, how you can even know what a community is and what it wants, and whether it's a helpful concept in government decision making. I'd be really interested to know what people who use it mean by and what people who dislike the concept think. I personally feel like it's a bit fuzzy, sometimes good to talk about, sometimes abused, and often hard to understand how to even know what a community wants as a whole. But it's definitely a popular concept and worth understanding. Just my 2 cents. Thanks.
That's a totally interesting question.
Yeah.
To me, community is the word of the decade because it's been overused to the point where like banks use it, like the banking community. I'm like, there's no banking community. I guess the origin of community to me in this context is generally it was groups that maybe have been pushed out of conversations or decisions were being made without them. And so bringing the community into it is saying somebody who's not normally seen as a stakeholder or someone that should be at the table gets a seat at the table to talk about whatever the issue is. Mm-hmm. But it has expanded so much that it is kind of hard. I agree with this listener that it is fuzzy.
It's a little vague.
Because it kind of means, again, and I hear it used in corporate jargon now, and I was used to hearing it in more like sort of DIY neighborhood level spaces.
Yeah, sometimes it means like let's get a group together to, package food kits or something, or like help the homeless, and sometimes it means like we want to have more customers for our products.
Right. We want to create a community around this. Like I'm a shopper in the Target community or whatever.
My personal definition, see what you think about this.
Sure.
How I think about the word community is just community is showing up. If you show up, you're part of the community of whatever it is.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting because there's ways to choose self-involvement, and then others is just an identifier. The queer community is a big umbrella for a lot of folks, or the newcomer community represents people that maybe don't talk to each other, but they're all from a similar situation.
Yeah.
So I can see
like
what
an affinity group.
Yeah, and I can see what you're saying though is like, but you also consider yourself part of a community when you show up to do something collectively. Yeah, I think that's totally fair, and it is hard to know.
Yeah, because like the difference between a neighborhood and a community. Like a neighborhood, like you could live there and you're a part of the neighborhood, but that's not a community unless you're showing up to be with people or do something together.
You know the people around you, or you maybe are making decisions together or something like that.
Yeah, that's my personal definition.
I think that's fair. I like this question though, because it is something that we use all the time, and maybe thinking about how we use it.
It bothers me a lot sometimes when I hear it.
Yeah.
And it just feels so wrong.
I hear it too, and I get mad, but it's usually because it's being used to it's co-opted in a way.
To sell more product
yes.
to more customers. Yes.
Well, if you have any questions, comments, thoughts on any of our past episodes or something we've shared in our newsletter, you can reach us denver@citycast.fm or 720-500-5418. Again, we always love to hear from you. Paul, before we go, you have one more call out for our listeners.
Yes, this came up on the Friday show. I'll just quickly hit this again, but we just sort of came up naturally. Like we were guessing how many unpaid parking tickets, like what's the total volume of money that is currently owed to the city by people who got parking tickets and haven't paid them. I reached out to the Department of Transportation and Infrastructure. They say they have this data. They haven't gotten it to me yet, but we were having some fun on our Slack internally just guessing at this. We got some great guesses, including from some listeners who came in. Just sent them to me. So I want to broaden this and extend it. If you have a guess for how much money is currently owed to the city in unpaid parking tickets, send it in. Price is Right rules. Whoever gets closest, I will send you some CityCast Denver stickers from me. But if I win, you have to tell a friend about the podcast.
All right. 720-500-5418. Give us your guesses.
All right. See you next time, Brain.
Thanks, Paul. That's all for today here on CityCast Denver. If you enjoyed this show, why not take a minute to tell King Soopers and City Market President Joe Kelly about us? Rate the show wherever you get your podcasts and subscribe to our morning newsletter and learn more about us at denver.citycast.fm. And if you love the show, come see us in person at Heyday, an indoor fair with urban flair on Saturday, March 8th. Get your tickets now at heydaydenver.com. We'll be back tomorrow morning with more news from around the city. See you later.